Hello there. So today I want to talk about secularism for a bit, mainly because I was listening to this podcast the other day, and the guy on it, I'm not going to say who because I'm just saying ideas. I don't want to talk about. I'm not interested in calling people out and saying like this is a person. There's a time and place to call people out, and like if someone says something serious, something I have to provide evidence for this person saying that. That's one thing, but I don't think I need to provide evidence for who said this. Anyone could have said this, and it's an idea that I can talk about. And yeah, you might have heard me say this before, but I think it's important to point out, so I am. Um, he said that we all believe in things that we can't prove to be true. He's trying to actually get through to seculars, to atheists, and all that stuff, trying to explain to them how just talk to God. And if you don't believe in God, just talk anyways. Try finding your connections. We all do believe already in things that you can't, that aren't tangible. As atheists, believe that it doesn't make sense to believe in God because it's not tangible. But if you understand that you already believe in stuff that's not tangible, then perhaps you can actually reach out and find yourself believing in God once you already understand this, that you do believe in these things. You do believe in like electrons and different things that aren't actually tangible, or atoms or whatever it is. You believe in these things that aren't tangible for you. The problem is that this guy is not doesn't understand atheist doctrine, atheist ideals, atheist views, and I do. I've been listening to atheists for years. I understand all the ins and outs, all their arguments, and I can probably explain and dismantle most of them, or a lot of them, or all of them. I know them. I know them well, and I understand their their legitimacy, let's say, and I understand why they believe it and all that stuff. And I know what an atheist would say to these arguments. So what an atheist would say to this particular argument is that's a straw man argument. They would say, which is a straw man argument is basically you're leading the argument somewhere else that it's not connected to what they're talking about. So you're talking about something that's a natural thing, the scientific stuff, whatever it is, the electrons, neutrons, all that stuff, and you're saying, well, I'm going to believe in the supernatural thing because of the natural thing. That's like talking about something else and saying that's something else. It's not related to this, the supernatural thing, not related to the natural thing. You should believe in that because of this. So that's considered a straw man argument. And any atheist that knows atheist doctrine would say that's a straw man argument. And I know they would say that. I made a video actually one time up with Godless Cranium. It wasn't with him. It was he responded to it, and I wanted to see if he responded to it, what they would say. I made this literally. One of the reasons I made it was to test to see if I was right. Like I knew like I thought that I know they're gonna say this, but I had to actually see it to believe it. It's one of those things. And what did I say? I said that spirituality is something like if you're praying and you're finding yourself close to God, connecting to God, and all that stuff. There's a spiritual feeling there and all that stuff. And can you like would you just argue and say like no, it's not real? That spiritual thing you're feeling isn't that? And I'm thinking to myself, making this video, I know the atheists are gonna say it's just a chemical reaction in the brain. But are they all really gonna say that? How many people are actually gonna say that? I had to test it, so I did. And if you look in the comments section on that video, you will find that if you look it up, Andrew Levy and Godless Cranium, you'll probably find it on YouTube. Um, you will find they all basically said that yeah, it's a chemical reaction in the brain, you idiot, or something like that. Very condescending. They tend to be condescending and nasty, and they have this idea that they believe that you have to earn respect to gain respect, meaning they can treat you however they want and be disrespectful to you unless you prove you're worthy to actually have their respect, which is a disgusting thing to believe. You should actually, as a human being, be respectful, as I've stated before in other videos. But they don't believe in this stuff, and I think that these religious people trying to make their arguments to prove God and all that stuff, I think they're failing, and the atheist community is growing. Like Michael Knowles said that all atheist arguments are generally bad. He knows all of them. He was an atheist himself and all that stuff. But I'm not necessarily convinced he was an atheist. And the fact that he says all their arguments are bad makes me convinced he wasn't actually an atheist even more so. He thinks it's just some immature, childish thing. So I think he was probably an immature child, as we all were. And he was going through his phase, trying to be cool and stand out or fit in or whatever it was to actually like be an atheist, quote unquote, but never really was. He never actually was an adult, embracing the ideals, embracing the concepts, and really being convinced otherwise. He was just some immature child that was just going along with doing stuff as an immature child. And he grew out of it and eventually moved on and became an adult. And actually realized, this stuff makes sense. But the fact that he's bashing on this stuff and not really understanding the atheists, I think really more suggests he wasn't actually really one of them. He was never really an atheist. I went through Understanding Atheists, and there's a lot of fully grown atheists out there who really believe what they believe. and they're actually mature, decent people, a lot of them too. But when it comes to their arguments to religious people, they have cognitive dissonance. It's called. They don't really understand how their behavior. They'll say things that are like simultaneously immoral while claiming morality. Like they know morality and they are moral people, but then they'll be doing things in an immoral fashion. They'll be saying things like, "You have to earn my respect in order to get respect," and actually be disrespectful to you. But if you actually meet them on a personal level, if you hang out with them or anything like that, they're not like disrespectful, nasty people simultaneously. So it's like there's a lot of stuff going on here, and I think this guy meant well, but it's better we try understanding their doctrine better. I think we got to understand their doctrine better and actually be able to call these things out when we're dealing with people. Anyone. It's not necessarily atheists. That's the thing. I'm not. If it was just atheists, and none of this would really matter. It's people with atheist ideals, secular ideals in general. You could be on the right, you could be on the left, whatever it is. Call it out. If you hear something that actually is part of the atheist secular doctrine, not religious doctrine, because they go against one another, you should be able to like call it out and say, listen, this is actually more something that's secular, something that's bad and goes down a bad path for society, and be able to point it out to anyone and do that. So hopefully I'll go through whatever I can with that, and we can actually discover all these things together and actually go through this stuff and be able to actually combat secularism. But trying to actually prove them in arguments and all that stuff, trying to say logically speaking there's a god and all that, is not going to work. There's been all these arguments have been happening for at least 50 years, probably longer in America. You can go back 50 years at least on YouTube and find arguments, all these arguments going back at least 50 years just on YouTube itself. I've seen them myself, and you can find all the arguments, and you will find that yeah, they're all there and they all have their answers and they all know their doctrine. They study their doctrine the same way religious people should be studying their Bible and all that stuff. Maybe the problem is that religious people aren't studying their Bible enough to understand the values and the worth, and to be able to express the value and the worth of it more. And it's more just like robotic, where it's like, yeah, this is truth and we believe in the truth and we're a bunch of robots just saying we believe in the truth. And that's just it, telling atheists we're a bunch of idiots that you should really go find your own stuff to do or whatever it is. Anyhow, like, subscribe, share. Join me on American Values on my Facebook group, on Instagram, American Dream, Andrew Levy 51. Thank you. All the best.